Hello, this is Jerry. Happy New Year. The year increment has always been important in our society and world, hasn't it? We give presidents 4 years, senators 6, U.S. representatives 2. It's how businesses cycle. It's how we manage so much in life, how we even mark our age. Now, I'm 806 months old, but no one cares about that. What would we do without the year? When God created our world, He defined certain time increments that were obvious. The day defined by the sun, the month revealed by the moon, that is, the month, 4 seasons as the sun gradually shifts, and then the year when it all begins again. These were the basic building blocks of time we needed. Ancient civilizations were eager to forge some kind of physical calendar to help manage their agricultural year. Stonehenge in England may well have functioned as a sacred ancient solar calendar. I say sacred also because Stonehenge had multiple purposes, and certainly it was a sacred site. When the Gutenberg printing press came into use in Europe, one of the early printing jobs was not only a Bible, but the calendar for the year 1448. Since then, we have further defined weeks and hours, minutes, seconds, and compiled years into decades, centuries, and millennia. And how we think about these time spans changes through time, doesn't it? For instance, a week span used to be a good increment for the publishing of news. Not today. A week gave enough time back then for the printer to collect enough information and stories, and then set the printer type, roll it out, and then let the ink dry and distribute them. For example, here is a newspaper from 1723, 303 years ago, from my office wall. The American Weekly Mercury, covering from Thursday, July 4th to Thursday, July 11th, serving both Philadelphia and New York City. 2 pages, front and back. The whole front page was devoted to European news, as we were just British colonies then. The back page has some news from New York and Philadelphia, including an exciting story about captured pirates off our coast. Then a lot of advertisements for runaway slaves and indentured servants. Sad. We've also used our God-given intellect and creativity to mark time with shadow clocks, also called sundials, water clocks, sand glasses, also called hourglasses, and by the 1200s in Europe, mechanical clocks, with the pendulum clock emerging in the 1600s. Just for trivia, did you know that our word clock has nothing intrinsically to do with time? The word came into English from the Latin, Celtic, and Dutch and meant a bell. Illiteracy was so common in Europe that the first mechanical clocks in the 1200s told or chimed the hours. 2 o'clock referred to 2 chimes of the clock. Afterward came the thought that there could be a clock face with a hand or hands for the literate to read a more specific time between the hours. But nothing was so ingenious as God's fashioning of time, measured out to us through His creation in days, months, seasons, and years. Now let's shift our attention from a year to a day. Often in the Scriptures, the day is the default increment God uses. Jesus taught us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble, Jesus also taught. We aren't to worry about the day tomorrow or yesterday. God meets us with grace within each day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. The Lord said, "As your days, so shall your strength be." Aren't you glad God divided up our lives into days? But why is a day increment good for us? What do you think? What do you like about a day? Well, we'll have good discussion on this in class. But imagine one long stretch of time instead. No sleep, no break. I love that each day is a new beginning. We can start afresh each day. Lamentations tells us that the Lord's mercies are new every morning. A day contains an appropriate measure of God's grace. It's our limit. God, in His wisdom and mercy, metes out one day at a time for us. And we awake to a fresh perspective, don't we? How often we rise with new insights and perhaps a better attitude, with less hurt from some psychological wound, or even less hurt as we physically heal. The day is certainly a huge blessing, not to be taken for granted. Days also form a divine curriculum from the Lord. Psalm 19 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims His handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge." Did you know we are students in God's school of creation? He lectures each day and night. And his PowerPoint is truly stunning. Here's from one of his night lectures, though always better experienced live and 360 degrees around us with all our senses. Psalm 139, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." Well, verse 16 really strikes me because we would think it would say about all the years that were formed for me. Instead, we have the days formed for me. Years are experienced one day at a time. David was reflecting about how God saw him so completely from unformed substance through every day of his mortal life, which includes a lot on God's part, more than we know, though our appreciation for human complexity and uniqueness have multiplied so much in recent history, like through our growing understanding of DNA. Here's an interesting article from the Life Sciences Department of the University of Missouri. Quote, "The entire DNA strand in a human body is equivalent to 120 billion miles, twice the diameter of the solar system. That is, if we total the length of DNA within each cell within our body. An estimate, of course, and the estimates vary, but all are whopping, unfathomable numbers. Now, if I would have read 100 miles for the length of all my DNA, I would have been really impressed. 1,000 miles? No way. But twice around our solar system? This is just beyond comprehension. Just our limited window into DNA helps us to appreciate something of the depth of a statement like this from David. Psalm 139, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth." Yes. And concerning time, God ordains how long our lives are. Psalm 90, verse 1, "Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust and say, 'Return, O children of man.'" So he made us, and he gives the command when we return to dust. And all he does is with unfathomable wisdom. He graciously gives us days, years, and a lifespan. And so David writes, "O Lord, make me to know my end, and what is the measure of my days. Let me know how fleeting I am." The New English Translation writes, "O Lord, help me understand my mortality and the brevity of life." Moses related the same. So teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Again, not years, but days. First, Moses looked to the Lord to help him understand this. Teach us this, Lord. We need God's help here to understand. Second, the numbering of our days. This is the most common of Hebrew words. It just means to number or count. Obviously, there is more meaning here than counting days off. Like what? What other words would we use to capture the meaning here of counting? What does that mean? Well, we'll have good discussion on this in class. Treasuring, valuing, etc. Now, the third part of this verse in Psalm 90 is the goal, the desired outcome, to get a heart of wisdom about this whole matter of our lifespan. The New Testament parallel passage we find in Ephesians 5:15. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Moses' numbering of our days is akin to looking carefully how we walk, making the best use of our time, because the days are evil. And like Moses, Paul points to wisdom. Think about what Job wrote. In his hand, in God's hand, is the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind. We are all within his loving and powerful and wise hands. Every breath is a gift. God has given us the gift of life, measured out in days especially. They are precious. But what would be the word you would use other than precious? I've already claimed that one. In 2026, I want to appreciate each day as, well, we're looking for a single word or a very short phrase, and we'll have good discussion on this. Important, significant. I want to appreciate each day as a privilege, valuable, a treasure, a gift from God. Write your own list. And do all these words that we've just given as an example, do they strike you as being a heavy and morbid ball and chain that we have to drag around through life? Absolutely not. Rather, we have the privilege of life here, given and sustained by God. And my recommended verse to take for this year, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to this new year, and thanks very much.